You don't live in the world you think you do.
Notice how he speaks to people as if they're children. You can't make this stuff up. While they're screaming climate change, you're listening to their words and ignoring their actions. While you think Trump is the issue, you've been silent the last 12 of 16 years at the least. But they've always operated this way regardless of who is the president. I can't get folks to pay attention long enough to prove my point. If you don't remember anything else, remember this. Their motto is, never let a crisis go to waste. So they'll either use an existing problem or create one. Next, they'll present a solution. And then lastly, they will get a reaction from us in the direction they want to go. Think about it. What came out of 9/11? The Patriot Act. Fast forward. What's going to come out of climate change? Do any of you know there are cloud seeding companies? Do you know the damage that can cause? We're seeing it. Who owns these companies? Wake up. Climate change, my foot. AI superintelligence takeover will be our end if we make it through the rest of this playing God foolishness. He who owns the most data will be king. Data is the new currency.
We're developing, through technology, an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? That's where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform?
If you've been watching videos on this channel for some time, you might have seen that clip before. And as you can see, it clearly shows that restricting our movement and tracking our so-called carbon footprint is the core part of their long-term agenda. It's the whole reason why they're trying to establish so many 15-minute cities across the globe. It's also the reason why they're so gung-ho on digital IDs.
We had the CEO of one of the largest Dutch banks say, why don't we start with a personal carbon credit?
Die uitstootrechten verdelen en dat elk huishouden of elke burger een hoeveelheid uitstootrechten krijgt. Zodat we opgeteld niet meer uitstoten dan onze grens. Vervolgens, als ik wil vliegen, koop van iemand die niet gaat vliegen, omdat hij daar bijvoorbeeld geen geld voor heeft. Die verkoopt aan mij zijn carbon uitstootrechten.
Well, now we're about to pass a law that will straight up fulfill this agenda by tracking and limiting car travel for more than 7 million Americans.
Every recognizable person in American politics and entertainment flies private. Nancy Pelosi flies private. Barack Obama flies private. Leonardo DiCaprio, famous, flies private. You know who flies private? A lot? Al Gore flies private. Michael Bloomberg, boy does he fly private. In a 4-year period, the UN climate envoy, Mr. Bloomberg, took more than 1,700 private flights, burning more than 10,000 metric tons of CO2. You could never do that. If you filled your yard with diesel engines and never turned them off, you would not do that. Your car emits less than 5 metric tons of CO2 a year. So this is meaningful. This is an actual offense against Mother Earth and the climate. So you have to wonder what the defenders of climate think of this. What about the climate warriors at Greenpeace and the Sierra Club and the Environmental Defense Fund? Have they noticed this? Not really. Have they scolded their donors for undermining their core message? No, of course not.
It's pretty extraordinary that we, select group of human beings, because of whatever touched us at some point in our lives, are able to sit in a room and come together and actually talk about saving the planet. I mean, it's so almost extraterrestrial to think about, quote, saving the planet. And if you said that to most people, they think you're just a crazy tree-hugging, lefty, liberal, do-gooder or whatever. I'm convinced we will get to a low-carbon, no-carbon economy. We're going to get there because we have to. I am not convinced we're going to get there in time to do what the scientists said, which is avoid the worst consequences of the crisis. So how do we get there? Well, the lesson I've learned in the last years, and I learned it as secretary and I've learned it since, reinforced in spades, is money, 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 money.
This is a safety crisis.
Massachusetts Senate Bill S-2246 sets the stage for the government to not only track how many miles you're traveling, but potentially charge you for your miles traveled.
Money, 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 money.
This bill, which is still in the process of getting passed, is designed to reduce how much we travel by private vehicles. In fact, they plan to make a council which will assess public transport options, land use policies, and will also give recommendations to make sure people stop driving as much as they do right now. Now, if you're wondering what they mean by land use policies, well, it basically calls for more dense housing developments. So instead of developing more suburbs, they're going to shove people into apartments.
Money, 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 money.
Of course, as far as recommendations go, the council can recommend anything to make it hard for us to drive. They can limit how much gas we're allowed every year, or they could just put some kind of carbon tax on us.
Money, 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 money.
And before any of you say it can't happen, folks, they just took away our right to sue Monsanto in 2 states.
After an amazing few days in D.C., it's extremely disappointing that today North Dakota signed into law the Pesticide Liability Shield. Absolutely awful news out of Georgia. Governor Kemp signed into law the Pesticide Liability Shield, and it will take effect in January 2026. This means if you live in the state of Georgia and you get sick from pesticide or chemical exposure for over 16,000 different chemicals, you can no longer sue the manufacturer.
A law is about to get passed in the U.S. Congress that will allow these companies to keep us in the dark about the fatal effects of their products. So don't just tell me that they can't take away our rights, because they sure can and will if we don't sound the alarm. Now, as for this vehicle travel bill, this won't stop with Massachusetts. If it's passed, you can bet that states like California are going to be right behind. And if you're wondering why this keeps happening, the answer is pretty simple. The people behind these projects have more money than we can possibly imagine. Don't forget that Bill Gates has already promised to spend most of his wealth to achieve these goals.
Bill Gates says he's giving away 99% of his $200 billion fortune. But here's where it gets interesting. In a recent video, Bill Gates announced his plan to donate nearly all of his wealth, with most of it going to Africa and other international causes, leaving just 1% for his children. He says it's inspired by industrialist Andrew Carnegie, who believed the rich have a duty to give their wealth away before they die. One of Gates's biggest focus areas? Mass health treatment programs, where entire communities receive preventative medications for diseases like river blindness, even if they're not showing symptoms. According to Gates, some of these programs are now hitting over 90% coverage in targeted areas, an impressive stat, but one that's raising eyebrows.
We also know how much he hates the idea of us eating real meat. Well, let me just show you what kind of other ideas are also being introduced to stop us from consuming meat. Folks, meet Matthew Liao.
People eat too much meat, right? And if they were to cut down on their consumption on meat, then they would, it would actually really help the planet.
Just as some people are naturally intolerant to milk or crayfish, like myself, we could artificially induce mild intolerance to meat.
There's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you, you'll become allergic to meat. That's something that we can do through human engineering. We can kind of possibly address really big world problems through human engineering.
So basically, he says we can use pills or even invasive methods like genetic engineering or hormone therapy to stop people from eating meat. And that's how open they are about their plans and ideas. But even if they don't force us to quit eating meat, they're always trying to replace it. I'm sure some of you have already heard about the fake fish that's coming to our restaurants thanks to Jeff Bezos.
They just slipped fake fish onto your plate, and Jeff Bezos is backing it. This lab-grown salmon, approved by the FDA as safe, is grown entirely from fish cells in stainless steel tanks, fed a nutrient formula, and molded into fillets that look just like the real thing. Supporters claim it's sustainable and cruelty-free, but the money trail shows billionaires like Bezos are pouring millions into replacing wild-caught and farm-raised fish with fully synthetic alternatives, shifting control of the food supply from fishermen and farmers to biotech labs. The USDA's approval means these products can now quietly enter U.S. restaurants without special labeling, meaning you could already be eating it without knowing. Critics warn the long-term health effects of consuming cell-cultured meat are still unknown, and environmentalists note that producing it at scale requires massive energy and industrial inputs far from the clean image being sold. This isn't just about salmon, it's about replacing real natural food with patented lab products owned by billionaires, where every bite is licensed and controlled. The question isn't if it replaces your dinner, it's how fast.
Now, moving on, I want to talk about another story that shows how pretty much every American is paying out of pocket to keep these AI companies running.
So I just got my first power bill under the new rules in which I pay for AI to plug in to our power grid. Now, PSE&G did absolutely warn me that this would happen. I mean, no, they didn't tell us that we're funding AI, because why should AI pay for itself when we can do it for them? Is my bill more than double the highest I've ever paid for any of the hottest years on record? Yeah. I used to pay something like $220, $235. It's $660.
Look, what she's saying isn't just limited to one state or county. These AI data centers consume so much power that the cost goes up for everyone else. So while old billionaires are adding an unimaginable amount of money to their net worths, the average American is paying more every month for electricity. And I just don't see how that's fair.